All right, so I'm here with Sean Emery and Erin Losi. You guys together, along with a whole mess of family, own Old City CrossFit.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate this.
So what I wanted to dive into today specifically with you guys is owning an affiliate with family. It cannot be easy to run a business along with multiple siblings, and your parents are involved as well. So let's get a couple things out of the way. Old City CrossFit, when did you guys open?
We signed our declaration of into fitness in October of 2013.
So
So about five and a half years.
yes, I mean any affiliate that's been around at they're becoming almost like restaurants. You know what they say about restaurants, like most close within their first year. You guys have made it over that hump. You guys are in Washington, D.C., which is one of the biggest and best cities in the entire world. But there's also, I mean, how many CrossFit affiliates are in that area?
There's probably about 4 or 5 in the city, and then in the greater area, probably 10, 15.
Do you guys know my friend Melanie Feldman? Not Melody, Melody Feldman? CrossFit MPH.
Oh yeah. I'm very familiar with CrossFit MPH, but I don't think I know her.
And are you familiar with Ted's Bulletin? That's my favorite
Yeah.
restaurant in DC.
Yeah.
Very good milkshakes and burgers.
And homemade Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. They screwed up our order one time, so we got a free homemade Pop-Tart. I was not disappointed. I was like, screwed up every time.
Yes, that was, we did a road trip all around the country, and that was to this day my favorite stop that we went to for breakfast. So, I have Shauna and Erin on here, and I know you mentioned your other sibling and parents are involved, but who found CrossFit first?
Actually, we found it on the exact same day, just totally randomly. I'll let Erin tell the story because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I was living in DC. So I was in the Marine Corps, and I had just gotten out. Sean was still in the Navy. He was stationed out in San Diego, and he called me up one day, and he's like, "You're not gonna believe this." He's like, I just did this workout. It was like in this garage, and he starts like, even like he didn't get much past garage, and I go, "Is it CrossFit?" And he's like, "Yes." How'd you know? And I was like, because I just went to my first CrossFit workout too. And so we quickly just started comparing notes and just talking about how much we enjoyed it, because we both were collegiate swimmers at the Naval Academy, and we both went into the military. So once you're in the military, you need to stay in shape. But we both struggled since we didn't have that structure from swimming, because we both swam competitively from the time we were 8 or so. All the way through college, and then all of a sudden you don't have like people telling you exactly what to do every single day to stay in shape. You have to figure it out on your own. And we had both kind of struggled through the like, oh, I don't want to do anything. I don't have a coach to tell me what to do. I'm going to go to the pool. Oh, just kidding. I'm going to get sidetracked by the hot tub, and I'm just going to sit in the hot tub for an hour, or whatever. So we ended up finding CrossFit like right about the same time. And we loved it. We both just immediately that competitive, every day is something different, and you're constantly learning new things, and you never get bored doing it. So our 2 younger sisters were in high school, I think late high school at the time. Maybe one was in college, but they both were swimmers too. So we encouraged them to take the summer off from swimming and only do CrossFit. And I mean, they were both just like, that's not possible, because in swimming, like, you literally get 2 weeks off a year. And but we convinced one of them to do it, and it was a great mental break. And then she got a lot stronger and had an amazing season that fall. And then from there we got our parents into it, and our parents at the time, I think we're maybe late 50s, early 60s, and our dad had that mythical knee pain where doctors are like, don't squat, which is the most ridiculous thing anybody could ever say. And they were having him do the reclined bike at the gym, and like within a month of CrossFitting, his knee pain went away, and within a few months he was overhead squatting. And then our mom she didn't have like any of that type of pain, but within a few months she was climbing a 15-foot rope. I mean, and now they're a few years older, but they're in better shape than people half their age. So it's been amazing.
That is an amazing story, and I love when people talk about it. I had this pain and that pain until I started doing CrossFit. So that's really amazing to hear. But sounds like you kind of all fell into it in 3 different areas of the, maybe the Mid-Atlantic Northeast. You're all kind of in that area. What was the journey then from, cool, we found this amazing thing, people are swimming better, dad's body's feeling better, mom's climbing ropes, let's open a box?
Yeah. So, so I was actually out in California. I was stationed out in California. And so I was, I was out there, and the vibe, and I think it was 2 factors. One, it was like out in California where everyone's just like super chill and laid back. And then moving to the East Coast in Washington, DC, where no one is chill and laid back. And at the same time, the CrossFit changed from, that 2009 to kind of 2011, 2012 timeframe with open, and it got much more competitive and, much more popular. And so I left this like tiny little home box, CrossFit Coronado. It was my family,
Oh, you were at CrossFit Coronado. That's a big, well-known box.
Yeah, it's legit. It's awesome. And Clint and the owners there are just absolutely awesome. And it was a family. I literally felt like I was leaving my family. And so I came out to the East Coast, and I joined some gyms, and they were fine gyms. They were great quality, great coaches, great everything. It just I don't know. I just felt like something was missing. I just felt there wasn't that community, that love, that I don't know, like the X factor, I guess you could say. I just felt like there was just something missing. And then I was living in DC. Erin was living in DC. I took a job, got out of the Navy, took a job in a cubicle. Erin got out of the Marine Corps and, worked in, various government contracting type companies. And, we were just kind of hanging out, just complaining about cubicle life. And, I forget exactly how the idea came up, but we just started talking about how cool it would be if we didn't have to work in a cubicle. And,
Actually, it was through all this, it was my husband, who at the time was not CrossFitting. He thought it was a cult.
It is. Let's be fair. There's definitely some cultish things going on.
Yeah,
For
but
sure.
he's since seen the light, and he loves CrossFitting now. But yeah, my husband, he loves to study city maps. And so we were living, he and I were living in Capitol Hill, and in the 8th Street, the Northeast, the 8th Street Northeast quarter. So the 8th Street area was the area of DC that had the riots in the 60s. So everything just was destroyed. And it wasn't until maybe around 2009 or so that the very beginning of the revitalization began. So we were kind of living in that general area. Sean wasn't too far away, but he was technically in Northwest. And my husband was just looking at the map, and because I was actually, I was going to Trident CrossFit in Alexandria. Chris
and Andrea, yeah, good friends.
Yeah, I actually joined them from the beginning, because I actually started CrossFitting at CrossFit Bowling on the Air Force Base nearby, but then I wanted to do something that was a little more serious isn't the right word, a little more consistent, had a more consistent schedule. So they were opening, so I joined them. So my husband was looking around to see if there was any place closer, a CrossFit gym closer, but there wasn't. And actually in that 8th Street area of DC, there wasn't a gym, period. Now there was something that was a little bit close in Southeast, but as far as mileage wise, it wasn't far, but in DC it's an eternity, it's an eternity away. And he was like, you and your brother should open a CrossFit gym around the 8th Street area in DC. There's nothing. And I was like, that's a great idea. And I was like, Sean, we should open a CrossFit gym. He's like, all right.
Now, well, first of all, my question when I hear DC, any famous politicians come into the box workout? Is Obama hitting Fran in there?
No, I think the most well-known politician we had, I think it was Jeb Bush's son that came in once. like this was a long time ago when we had paper waivers, and this guy like filled out the waiver and his name was like something Bush, and, you know, looked kind of like a
Yeah.
politician would look. And, and our morning coach was like on Google trying to figure out who this guy was. I'm pretty sure it was Jeb Bush's son. But we get a bunch of staffers and, you know, some higher profile people, but not like, you know, we're not getting Obama or Michelle or anybody in there.
That's not where she got her famous arms at
Yeah.
at Old City CrossFit. So
Yeah, no, I wish.
now, when you guys decide to do it, and it sounds like a family affair, did anybody come to you guys and say, like, look, don't mix business and family?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the cliche. I don't know. I mean, I feel like anytime that you have a business partnership, you're mixing something with something, you know, like you're mixing business with your friendship, you're mixing business with interaction with another human. As far as I'm concerned, I think mixing business and family is the best possible mixture, because I have zero doubt in my mind that Erin is going to take advantage of me or screw me over, whatever. Like, we might have our share of disagreements or, you know, discord and like have to work through things, but there's no doubt in my mind that it's all to move the business forward, and it's not to, like, you know, take advantage of or to screw me over. Like, it's just, hey, we just don't see eye to eye on the business, so let's figure out how we can see eye to eye on the business, you know. And I think it's double better because none of us want to ruin Christmas, you know, like
But
like so I don't know. I don't see it as being any different.
no, and that's really great to hear. I've owned 3 affiliates. One was by myself. The latter 2 were with partners, and there were definitely ups and downs. In the second one that I owned, the partner and I don't really speak anymore because we just butted heads all the time. Has there been any fights around owning the box and decisions at the box that have left the box and gone to, you know, Thanksgiving dinner?
No, I mean, our whole family's involved. So certainly there's been a lot of stressful conversations and tough conversations and butting heads and differences. But, you know, like we deal with them, we move on. And yeah, you know, does it cross over Thanksgiving? Yeah, we might have a board meeting like the week of Thanksgiving when we're all there. But no, I mean, at least from my perspective, Erin's perspective might be different, but
Well,
yeah.
Well, let's hear. Erin, do you agree with Sean?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, like you said, I mean, I don't think you can, as much as you want to try to compartmentalize it, you can never completely compartmentalize it. And sure, things are going to bleed over. But overall, I think that we've done a good job, and as much as reasonably, as much as can be reasonably expected, kind of compartmentalize things. If, you know, if there's an issue with the business, like, so I had a son last August, and we had just been through kind of just a tough time in the business, and Shauna and I had really disagreed on things, and it was not a real great time. But Sean and his wife came to visit me in the hospital, and we were just like acting like nothing had happened, you know. So that yeah, now maybe is that the healthiest thing? Maybe not, but it seems to work for us. And like Sean said, I think that there are pluses and minuses of being in business with family, or, you know, really just with anybody. And I think ultimately, being in business with family, it makes it maybe a little bit harder to get divorced, so to speak, you know, to like get out of the business. So you know, I think you really are just, in some ways, I think you're a little more committed because it's harder to walk away, and because it does have a ripple effect into your familial relationship.
Who is the fittest in the family?
Oh man.
Definitely me.
Yeah. No, we did our level 1. Was it level 1? Yeah, I think it was level 1. We did our level 1 on the same weekend, and it was back when I think we did Fran. I don't know what they're doing now, but they had us do Fran on that first day. And Erin went first, and like she was in the first heat. That's just kind of how it shook out. And I was like, oh man, like put up a pretty good time. You know, like none of us are like regional athletes. So like, you know, I forget what Erin's time was, but, you know, something like 7 minutes, you know, which is respectable, but we're not talking like that 2-minute nonsense. Come on, get out of here. And so I was like, oh man, like now I got to beat that. I remember like being super nervous, thinking I couldn't beat it. And I know I was close. I don't know if I beat her, if I didn't, but I knew that I would at least put up a good show. But I was really hoping that she would like, I don't know, like blow out her knee or not be able to finish the workout so I could like, so I could phone it in.
Now, I will say, as far as athletic ability, Sean has the natural talent. Like growing up swimming, I mean, and just in general playing sports, Sean definitely has the raw talent. Now, as far as like dedication and longer term work ethic, I would say that's my strength.
Bingo.
So I think that it's kind of funny to see that different dynamic, because Sean could, he probably hasn't touched a basketball in a couple of years, but he could probably, go play a pickup game and do pretty well. So he just has that born athletic ability.
Yep.
Now, with the box being in DC, such a metropolis, what are some of the challenges you faced there versus, I owned a box in upstate New York, Albany, Wallace City, nothing compared to DC.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of face two sets of challenges. One, it's real expensive. Rent is just super, super expensive. So getting used to the idea that, like when we first started, I was coming from Coronado, CrossFit in 2009. I think I was paying like $125, $135 a month for membership. And, I'm not sure what Erin was paying, but when we were starting to look at like what we were going to charge, like I remember thinking like, no way is $215 going to work. Like that is ridiculous. That's so expensive. And Erin is much wiser with money and and stuff like that. And she was like, that's what we have to charge. I was like, oh, okay. So for me, it was like getting over that hump and realizing that like you have to charge what it's worth and like what it costs. You can't undervalue yourself, whatever. So I think that was a big challenge. And then the second challenge, I think, is just the volume. You need 150 to 200 people in your gym basically to break even, and so that's a tough thing to manage, I guess.
So what is the current rate at Old City CrossFit?
$225.
Yeah, so that's certainly on the higher end, but like you said, when you factor in where you are, rent there is probably double, if not triple, what most, smaller areas pay. So you have to charge more. And I'm sure the people that live in that area are used to paying more of a premium for living in the city.
Yep.
Now, what were some skill sets? Erin, you said you're in the Marines. Sean, you're in the Navy. What are some of the skill sets you took from the military that carried over and best helped you prepare to own your own business?
I think it's just for me anyway, it's the regiment of the military, in that, things are very structured and you have to be very disciplined. And because if you're all over the map and maybe if that's the way, like Sean is like, I am definitely more like disciplined, I would say, than Sean, like just naturally. It's more of a learned skill for Sean. So if that's your personality type, like you need somebody who is going to instill that rigor and that discipline, because that's what's going to get you through. Like it's all fun and exciting at first when you're developing the idea and you first open your doors, but then as you move on, you need that rigor and that discipline. And then I think the other thing is the leadership. I mean, at 22 years old, we were both put in charge of people that we had to lead, and we didn't know anything, like absolutely nothing. I mean, when you're like, I was a second lieutenant, he was an ensign. I mean, literally you don't know anything, but you have to, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but there is a little bit of that, but just admitting, to your sailors and Marines, like what you don't know, and learning that as the person in charge and as the leader, you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to know like where to go get them. And you have to be humble enough to ask people. And, you don't have to like set yourself up there as this, god or goddess, and that you can that you can lead by example and lead by using people's strengths.
Do you think that's a mistake affiliate owners are making, not being willing to say, I don't know?
I would think so. Yeah. And I think the other mistake that I see is that people treating it like a hobby, like, oh, hey, CrossFit's so fun. I want to do this. As a business. But they say business, but they don't really, by their actions, they don't really mean business. They take something that's fun and just they don't put the business structure around it. And cause it's difficult to do. And so they run it more as a hobby.
Sean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, completely. Well, completely with the second part. My military experience was rebelling against the discipline that Erin took to heart. So, what I took out from my military experience was, so I was a submariner, and there's a collateral duty on the submarine that they give to one of the officers, called the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Officer. And it's something that, like super collateral duty. You're in charge of making sure that the boat has like the ball caps, and, maybe like make sure the treadmill works. Like it's, a few hours a month, and that's kind of like the job. But when I got in charge, I took over MWR. Like I was so involved in the morale and welfare of the crew that basically my captain was like, he didn't even worry about like my primary job and just kind of let me run with it. And so it really made me realize that as a leader, your primary responsibility is taking care of your crew, of your team, of your, the people that support the mission. Your job is to kind of take care of them and make sure that they're in a position to thrive. And, in the military, there's a position where your job is morale. And then when we transfer over to the business, I'm there, I'm coaching, all the time. I'm like the primary coach in the gym. And my job is to do the same thing for the members. But then as we start to build a team, bigger and bigger, and I'm coaching a little less and a little less, then it took me a few years to realize that now my focus needs to be on my team, like on my coaches. And I need to treat my coaches as if they're my crew and expect them to treat the members as if they're their crew. And, I just sort of see that, like that concept of, what your job is as a leader to take care and protect people so that they can do their job. And that's kind of what I took from it.
How big is your coaching staff?
So we have 10 coaches on our CrossFit side. But out of that, we have like 4, maybe like 6, we'll call it 6, like super primary coaches, 4 pretty primary coaches, 2 to 3 pretty significant assistant coaches. And then we have some like weekend coaches who are big help, but they're not quite as active as some of our daily coaches.
So, Erin was saying she took her level 2 with Fern at CrossFit Rife, and I work on the level 2 staff as well. And we get a lot of people that come in and they're really bad coaches. And, I talk to them and I'm like, hey, what do you expect? Like, you're not getting feedback. You're not getting developed. You took your level 1 3 years ago, and that was it. That was the last time you learned from anyone. What are you guys doing at Old City CrossFit to develop these coaches?
Yeah, so this is another thing that just basically comes straight out of my military experience. You go through all this training, you go through nuclear training, you go through a really short submarine school, and then you're put on this submarine and the reactor looks nothing like what you studied in school. And then, you have no idea how a submarine works, really. And so you're given a qual book that's like this big, and you have to go around and, you have to go to the mechanic who's in charge of the mechanical systems of the submarine. And he basically interviews you and asks you questions. And if you demonstrate enough knowledge, then he signs your book, puts a date on it. And then you go on and have the same conversation with the electrical guys or maybe the dive control guys. And so you sort of work your way around, and it's a mechanism that forces you to talk to all of the crew, to demonstrate that you have knowledge, to demonstrate that you have, operational capacity. And once you get everything signed in your call card, then you go to the captain and the engineer, and they give you a big comprehensive interview, and they determine whether or not you're ready to qualify and stand watch. And so that's like a 3-6 month process. And basically I totally copied that exact same format for assistant coaching and for head coaching. And so our assistant coaches have the responsibility of needing to be able to teach movements and, correct movements kind of on a one-on-one and kind of basic level. And then our head coaches, we just expect more of them to be able to teach and correct in a group environment, and also just to have like more knowledge around nutrition and mobility and stretching and range of motion, and like basically like the comprehensive suite of what you would expect a coach to do. And so when a coach comes in, they come in with their level 1, and then we put them on their assistant coach call card. And then that call card is going to force them to just have conversations with every single one of our coaches and our staff. They're going to have to talk with me. They're going to have to talk with, Katie or Jason, like people who are, experts in this type of thing. Oh, go meet with Jen to talk about kettlebells. And it really, the primary thing that it does is facilitates conversation between coaches, and it gives the senior coach an avenue to, like, without being a dick, to like give feedback to the coach, because there's, supervised watch, like you stand the watch as a head coach, and then I'm going to give you feedback. And if there wasn't the mechanism of a call card, then that feedback is just going to be like, dude, why is this coach always picking on me? No, I want you to get qualified. So here's how it works. And it's worked pretty good.
And it's taken years to get to where we're happy with it. I mean, obviously it's always being tweaked, but I mean, this is probably version at least 5.0. Because I think that one of the great things is that CrossFit HQ is continually adding training and adding other things. But there wasn't even a level 2 when we started, and actually the L1 test had just been implemented. One of our coaches had to go back and take the test because she had taken the L1 before there was a test. So it's been a long process to get to this point, but we feel it's really important, not only for the coaches' development, but also so athletes. So when our members come in, they feel like they're getting consistent coaching across the board. So it doesn't matter whether you come in at 5 a.m. or 7 p.m. While, okay, Jen and David might have different coaching styles, they're ultimately coaching the same mechanics and giving the same basic cues and things like that. There's consistency in the coaching.
No, I think that's very important. I think boxes should allow coaches to have their own style and flavor, but at the end, the coaching and the teaching has to be consistent. So that way, don't go to Sean's class and then Erin's class and think this was 2 completely different events.
Right.
There should be a lot of synergy there.
Yep.
What's one thing you think affiliate owners could be doing better?
That's a good question. I spend so much time thinking about what we could be doing better. I don't think about other people.
Well, then what's one thing, and it maybe be introspective. What is something, Old City CrossFit's successful. You're running a family operated business. You're charging over $200 a month. Things are looking good, but it's important to think, what can I also be doing better? Is there something you guys are working on currently to improve?
I'll answer the question real quick on what generally I think boxes could do better. And again, this is just something that I've seen, and it's tough. And it goes back to what I said earlier, is that if you're going to open a box, you need to run it as a business, and you need to understand at least have somebody that you can reach out to, or somebody in the business that understands like licensing laws, labor laws, that taxes, all of these HR laws, because you can quickly get yourself into trouble, whether it's through a disgruntled employee, or even just not meeting your revenue goals, or you're not able to pay your rent. So I think it's really, really important to understand that you have to run your box as a business. And on the ownership side, I don't want to say that coaching isn't important, because obviously it is, but it really, like, if you're going to be successful long term, you need to understand the business side of things. And actually, like, at first, I mean, this is terrible, but Shauna and I used to joke that that the best way to get out of shape is to own a CrossFit gym, because you're so engrossed in the business side of things that, at least for us anyway, at first, like, we weren't even working out.
Yeah,
So that was
I have 2 chapters in the upcoming book, Best Hour of Their Day, dedicated to the 2 times I looked in the mirror and was like, I'm the chubby affiliate owner.
Yep.
right. And it
Story of my
wasn't, I
life.
mean, obviously, if we could go back and do it again, we'd have a lot of lessons learned. But I will say, I think, though, at least we were focused on the dollars and cents of it, because I think people go, like, totally the other way, and they are just focused on themselves working out and not on the business side of things. And I think I've seen that a lot of those gyms really, really struggle.
Yeah, I mean, as recently as yesterday, I was talking with Chris Hinshaw for the podcast, and he was faced with this dilemma of, do I keep my job and try to do this aerobic capacity thing, or quit? And it wasn't until he quit that people think it's just a matter of, well, I need more time, but it's also giving your brain the opportunity to think and grow and develop, all that stuff. I think the best box owners out there are doing it full time, and it's a challenge, but you have to take risk once in a while.
Right.
Before we wrap up, I always like to ask all the guests if there's a book that they recommend for the listeners. So, Sean, do you have a go-to book that you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership, Jocko Willink. That's like mandatory reading. Like, if you want to work in our company, like, come to the interview having read those books. That's how we operate everything now.
Extreme Ownership. Yeah, I finished that earlier this year. It's a tough one.
Yeah, and Dichotomy of Leadership makes that book so much better.
Are they both by Jocko?
Yep. It's a follow-up one that just gives a little more nuance. And then what I tell people to do is listen to every Q&A that Jocko does on his podcast, because it takes it to an even deeper level.
Yeah, Jocko's podcast is dark sometimes, and I can't always listen to them, but his Q&As I enjoy, because it's him answering questions, not just talking about being in the battles. And I liked his the field manual. That was a little bit of easier reading for me.
Yeah. Discipline equals freedom.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I talk about that in the book as well, where part of being a box owner is setting those rules for yourself, whether it's go to bed at a certain time or get up at a certain time or make sure to work out. That discipline is actually what gives us that freedom. What about you, Erin?
Traction by Gino Wickman. This book was, I would say, life-changing for our business. It explained how there's the visionary and the integrator, and Sean is basically 100% visionary, and I'm basically 100% integrator. And so it really clarified for us our roles in the business, and how like, one is not better than the other, but you need both of them. And all the really successful businesses, or not all, but a lot, have had both that are and then it also helped us get a handle on running of the day-to-day business. So if you're like us and you felt like the business was running you and running you ragged, and you're just at the end of your rope, this put a ton of day-to-day, and going back to what you guys were just talking about with the day-to-day structure, it puts day-to-day structure in place and helps you get people in the right seats, doing the right job. It was a turning point in our business.
Yeah, both of those books have been recommended numerous times by the guests, and Traction is on my list. Enough people have recommended it now. I'm like, okay, I just have to go get it. Well, it's been great chatting with you two. Anything I missed talking about Old City CrossFit or your family and relationship in the box ownership?
Just to circle back to the last question, yes, before the books, the thing that I think that we're really aggressively working on, and actually I think this is for any business owner, especially family businesses, but literally like any business partnership, I think you really need to define roles, define responsibilities, create processes, create job descriptions, like as much structure as you can build into the partnerships and into the roles that everybody's doing. I think you'll be much better served when you can look at a piece of paper and say, like, you're not doing what you committed to do. And that's like what we're doing right now with our coaches. Like, we're getting cleaning processes, we're getting, just every single process defined. And it's probably something that, Erin wanted us to do 4.5 years ago. And I was like, we don't need to do that. Come on, quit wasting our time. But now I'm realizing the wisdom and importance of that sort of stuff.
That's what sisters are for. But yeah,
older sisters.
you mean do all the stuff that's not fun? That's not why I opened a box, right?
Yeah, seriously.
But you're right. Those were some of the hardest things I had to do. But if you're looking to run a box, not just for the short term, but long term, you got to do all that stuff, all the nitty gritty. Well, it's been really great talking to you. And now I have a second reason to get to DC other than Ted's Bulletin. Actually, my sister's moving there, so I will certainly be there. My sister and parents are moving there, I think, in the next couple of months. So now I know a box to recommend for them. And I'll grab a breakfast burrito and Pop-Tart at Ted's Bulletin. We'll get a good workout in. I'll beat you in Fran.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. Just a reminder, Fern and I have an amazing new show called Dropping In, premiering on our YouTube channel in early 2020. Be sure to head over to the Best Hour of Their Day YouTube channel now. Subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes. You've probably heard us talking about it, summarizing some of our trip. You can see some highlights up on our Instagram as well at Best Hour of Their Day. But I promise you, you're not going to want to miss out. So subscribe now. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for letting us be a part of your lives. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Tune in tomorrow for another episode of Best Hour of Their Day.